Sisters and brothers, it's my privilege to introduce again our brother, Brother Howard Parker, all the way from the other side of our county and across the bay from Mill Valley. His home church is Glyde because he works right there downtown in San Francisco. So he knows how to navigate the streets of San Francisco and then Oakland's Chinatown. So you got here very early, you got found parking space, and you're here. And we're glad to welcome also Sister Martha. Brother Howard is our conference secretary for General Board of Global Ministries, helping us to interpret what it is to be a connectional church. One of the things we're studying in the first hour under Pastor Emily's leadership is about a church that is dying or a church in resurrection. I'm not saying anymore, so you have to come and listen to what she does. But Brother Howard is helping us to connect our church with our district, our annual conference, to the larger church of the United Methodist and to the global church, the general connection. So he's here today to share with us about what covenant relationships is all about, to give us an update. As you know, we have a covenant relationship with Sister Marilyn and her husband, Pastor Joseph, in Cambodia. We have a covenant relationship with our friends in Kumi, Uganda, and KCBS. We are forming a new relationship because of our pilgrimage to Palestine this past May. 23 of us went. Not from all this church, but from several places. You've probably heard about it. So we hope to enter into this new relationship even deeper than what we did the 2 weeks that we were there in Palestine, Israel. So you're going to help us introduce that covenant relationship with Friends of Wadi Fukim. Let's welcome Brother Howard.
Thank you, Bert. It's a pleasure to be here. This is not our first visit, and we are always delighted that we feel so welcome to be here, and we feel so grateful to have our connection, Martha and my connection, with the people here. I bring you greetings from our missionary daughter, Catherine, in Nepal. We talked to her last night, and she is on vacation this week. She is going on a trek with some work friends in Nepal, going first to Pokhara and then on the bus into the mountains. And we're so delighted that she can have that experience. I bring you greetings from Marilyn and Joseph, and our report about them is, and you may know this, is their daughter Christina is starting a college program in Sonoma County, not very far from us, and so we've had some contact with her about finding housing near to her school to be able to have that kind of support that helps all of our college students. I bring you greetings from Kennedy Cruz, who's a missionary who works with Joseph and Marilyn Chan in Cambodia, and he has been here before, and he's going to come to our annual conference again this fall, and will be available to meet with people who might have time in their busy schedule. I am not a preacher. Although my mother always wanted me to be one, and she would be happy to have me up here today. My calling has been social justice, and I have worked for the past 40 years in the San Francisco Civic Center in a consumer protection job with the federal government. In church circles, I say, only half jokingly, that I work for the Ministry of Justice of the United States. I'm going to have 3 points today. This is about as much as I learned about preaching from my preacher father, that sermons should have 3 points. I'm going to tell a little bit about my story, about our story as United Methodists, which is a kind of connecting the dots, and I'm taken with the notion of connectionalism, how we are all connected, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll talk, my third point, a little bit about what I see as your story. You, of course, are the ones who know your story, and I'm not the one to really tell the story, but I can tell you what is seen by others from outside about your story. These stories are not deep, but they are grounded. They are firmly grounded in the Wesleyan quadrilateral of scripture, tradition, experience, and reason. They are the lives we live and how they relate to Methodism and to Christianity. So my story, Martha and my story, I think is a common one in terms of our progression from family to local church to local community to an involvement in the world as a whole. I love our opening hymn, which is a family favorite of mine. And emblematic of the progression from the beautiful earth that we live in, and in Northern California we live in particularly a beautiful place. But the progression in verse 4 of the love of family to the love of the love that surrounds us in our families and in our local church. And ultimately leads us to the question of how do we respond to that, to the love of God, to the love that we experience in our life. And I like John Wesley's answer. One way of thinking of this is the world is our parish, and that was John Wesley's conception of where his life was and where we are as United Methodists. Martha and I have 3 children, and as our children became involved in Sunday school, that drew me into the local church when we had small children playing the piano for the children's worship. That was about all they would really receive my doing, but I enjoyed it a whole lot. And then into a greater involvement in the local church as the children's ministry, which I advocated, became better integrated with the church life as a whole, where we had children, where we were plainly welcoming of children in worship. And we did things intergenerationally. That was important to me, and that drew me in my story into involvement in the local church, following the children. The little children will lead us, and that's part of my story. So when our oldest child, Catherine, who we helped pay for her to go to a wonderful science program at Harvey Mudd College in Claremont, California, graduated, and as a parent, I was thinking, now maybe she'll get one of those high-paying jobs at Genentech or some other work like that will set her economically for life. That was sort of my fantasy of what she was going to choose. But what appealed to her, and looking back on it, I think maybe what happened was she took seriously what we taught the children in Sunday school. She wanted to go to the Peace Corps, and some people in our extended family helped guide her into a church program that was like that exists today. We have great programs for young adults, and today they call them Global Mission Fellows. And it's like the Peace Corps. Peace Corps, some have said, used the Methodist young adult program as its model. So we have a long-standing connection. In any event, that's what she did for a while, and then she answered the call to make that her life's work. and was commissioned in 2008 and worked with Marilyn and Joseph and others in Cambodia for 5 years, and now is in Nepal. And so it was that event that in a continuation of my following the children, which is what led me to the local church, which led me to the role I have and the role Martha works very hard on as well, the role we both have serving as a mission secretary, the primary responsibility of which is to help connect local churches with our various missionaries. And it's a great program for me because when support is developed for Catherine, it supports all the missionaries, and vice versa. When support is developed for Marilyn and Joseph and Kennedy Cruz and the others who have visited here, that supports all the missionaries. So it's a program that works really well for me and my involvement. I can't be here without, giving a little bit of report about Catherine. So we have a video of Catherine that we're going to try to show here. This shows her work in helping, using her science background in microbiology, in clean drinking water, helping to train the local health workers to understand how they can test their own local drinking water, and then it empowers the local people to talk amongst themselves and see which family is getting really clean water and which isn't, and they can learn from one another. So it's very much an empowering of local people to solve their own problems. So let's see if we can show that video now.
We're gathered together today to do a community assessment of the drinking water supply in Marpak VDC of Dading District. We have with us the female community health volunteers as well as student peer educators. And right now they're mapping the different water sources in their community: springs, rivers, ponds, all of the places where they get drinking water as well as water for other purposes like bathing. After this exercise, we'll go out into the community and collect samples of those water sources, as well as samples from household storage and different purification methods that people use in their home. We will inoculate that into a media using a portable microbiology laboratory that will enable us to test specifically for E. coli, an indicator of fecal contamination in the water. And after 24 hours of incubating that using our body heat, we will have actual results of the risk level associated with the different water sources throughout this group of villages. The women gathered here today will be able to do their own risk assessment of the water sources so that they have real information to make practical choices within their home and within their community about how they manage the water and where they choose to gather water for their household use.
But E. coli, they will die in 1 or 2 days after leaving the human body or mammal's body. So we're going to take a look at our samples and say which one just have the environment and which one have the feces-related bacteria.
Delta, data, and bio. Sajilo? No? Holding? Yes. With real information, people can make real choices.
So one of the things she's had to do is learn Nepali, and it's somewhat related to the Khmer language in Cambodia. So she did have a head start after having worked in Cambodia, and so when she gets really tired, she reverts to English and speaks through a translator. But most of these sessions, she's able to speak in Nepali. But our friend Paul Jeffrey, who made the video, he selected when she was speaking in English. So at least for those of us who do not know the Nepali language, we can follow the video. So when I went to college at the Methodist supported University of Puget Sound in my hometown of Tacoma, Washington, where Martha and I met, and over 44 years ago now. One of the things that we studied was the English poet John Donne, and sort of to my surprise, we studied the sermons of John Donne in college, which this was in the 60s, and it was an anti-establishment time, and even churches and sermons weren't a common part of the college experience, but there was part of it that resonated with me, not so much at the time, but later, and looking back at it. And that is his sermon that is called "No Man is an Island," and it ends with sort of his final catchphrase. Do not ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee, which then Ernest Hemingway used in his wonderful novel about the Spanish Civil War. But it's about how we are connected as humans. And if I may paraphrase, no man or woman is an island. We are each part of the main continent. If a single clod of dirt washes away anywhere on the continent, it diminishes me. When a bell tolls for a funeral, do not ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for you. So I found that a powerful image of how solidly we are connected with the people of the world, all the people of the world, not just with our nuclear family, or our local church, or our tribe. We are connected not just with those in your so-called sovereign nation. We are connected with all people around the world. And my sense of John Wesley's description of the world, he says, the world is my parish. The world is our parish. There's a way of thinking about it that he's saying the same thing. We can look at the whole world like we look at our local church, like we look at our friends and family that support us locally. And I'm sure John Wesley derived his idea that the world is his parish from Scripture, from the Great Commission, where Jesus focuses our attention on spreading Christianity throughout the world. And in the United Methodist Church, we have used that same language in our mission statement, that our mission is to make disciples of Jesus Christ, and then we expand it to say, as Methodists, make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. For what purpose are we making disciples? And this is the Methodist way. This is the Wesleyan way. Our tradition starts with what happens in your heart, but it does not end there. We are doers. Oakland Chinese Community Church is filled with doers and does things. So historically and now today in Kumi, we build schools as United Methodist. Historically and today in West Angola, through the work we do together in our annual conference, we build hospitals and medical clinics. Historically and today, in response to hurricanes Harvey, Irma, Jose, Maria, and for earthquake victims in Maria, we participate generously in disaster relief through our United Methodist Commission on Relief, through UMCOR. Historically, and today for people in Palestine and Wadi Faqim, we have concern and attention for and a ministry to the strangers among us, to immigrants, to people who are displaced. historically and today in Cambodia, through the work of Marilyn and Joseph Chan, we plant churches and consciously extend the Christian structure of churches and church communities, because we think that is a valuable way to organize our lives. And in Cambodia, a big lesson is the story of the Good Samaritan. And Catherine worked on this with Joseph and Marilyn and Ken Cruz. And Cambodia is at a different stage than we are in the development of Christianity. But it's a helpful lesson and thought problem in Cambodia to say, who is my neighbor? Who is my neighbor? And it's an old story to us, but it's a new story in Cambodia. It's a new story to new Christians, and something that requires thought and reflection, and is sometimes a challenging story. So we historically and today in Nepal, through work like the work of Catherine, we send health workers. And we're not done. We are not finished as United Methodists, because there are challenges ahead of us. We have had, and we all participated in the challenge of Imagine No Malaria. We imagine ways that we can deal with the problems of the world. And there is a successor now, which I will tell you about, because it's a challenge. There's the 10,000 Church Challenge, to invite churches to commit to the new quadrennial focus of the General Board of Global Ministries, which is abundant health for children. And it is not explicitly a money-raising program like Imagine No Malaria was. We can send this amount of money and save this many lives. This program, which has been endorsed by our annual conference through its structures, is to commit ourselves consciously to pray about and think about what we can do in terms of children's health, both locally and at the same time globally. So I can talk to Bert a little bit more about sort of the form. We're talking a little bit about sort of forms. What is the form for making a covenant relationship? What is the form that we can commit ourselves in a way of responding to this kind of challenge? But this is our Methodist way. We do things. It is intentional to live out our faith and let other people see what we as Methodists do. It's not the way that every Christian organization sees itself as making disciples. But it's our way. So attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi is an expression that I think reflects the Methodist way of doing mission and how it's related to the Great Commission. Preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words. Yeah, we do lots of preaching. Those of us who like here, who work in mission and do mission projects, and it's preaching, and in that way, surely we are all preachers. It's important also how we do it, the way in which we do mission. And we have a great tradition within the United Methodist Church. I learned since I started working with the General Board of Global Ministries that we have wisdom and experience and skill. Used to be in New York, now in Atlanta, among the people who have been doing this for a long time, about how we do the mission. And here's what we don't do. We don't go to Kumi and in one quick visit say, no problem, ladies and gentlemen of Kumi, your problems are over. Your saviors are here. We know what you need, and here's your prescription. We do not do that because that's not our tradition. It's easy to get in, to make the error of doing that because we have confidence in our own wisdom and skill. And so there's this great video which I love that's a few years old now, but it illustrates the concept that we do, specifically in ministry with the poor, but that we do ministry with. We don't do ministry to or for, and it's easy to say, but it's genuinely hard, really, to get your head around it and to implement it that way. But it's a fun video, and let's try to show that one if we can. So we send skilled professional workers where they are asked to come. And that's a way in which we honor the local communities. We send teachers, doctors, nurses, and microbiologists where they are asked to come. We build schools and dormitories where they are asked for, not where we decide that this is what is needed. This is not a giant church. I go to Glide where there's 1,000 people there on a Sunday. But John Wesley had it right. It's not a large number of people that is necessary to do stuff. His idea was if you had 10, if they were really committed, that would be enough. And that's certainly been true in my experience. I think I counted up. I think I've attended to 10 different churches over my life for various reasons. And there was one at which the church was not spending its money the way I thought was the right way to do it. And it was consuming me. I had the thing that I was so mad about up on my bulletin board above my dresser. And every morning I would look at it. Over time, I got angrier and angrier. But I finally realized, and how much we can give is all relative to one's own situation. But the day finally came when I recognized that if I feel so strongly about that, I can give more money to make it happen. And that's all of our experience. It takes real commitment to do things. And the first thing is we have to really, I mean, if we really are persuaded it needs to be done, then we in Northern California have the ability to get things done. And it is the commitment and passion of a small number of people that can accomplish great things. So in one of the things I have access to is the records over time of what Oakland Chinese community has contributed through the advance to the work. The advance is sort of the corporate church's giving channel. So they have records back through 1997, and it's not everything that's done here, but it is part of what is done. So since 1997, there were 170 gifts from We Here, over $90,000 in that particular giving channel. And I can look back and remember some of these things. And I'm pretty sure there's people here who remember some of these programs. Disaster relief for floods and tsunamis and earthquakes and hurricanes. Efforts to alleviate poverty through Imagine No Malaria and Church World Service, Heifer. I bet there are people here who remember when we were supporting pastoral salaries in Bolivia. Habitat Humanity, anyway, the Habitat for Humanity building projects, support of the work of United Methodist Missionaries, Joseph and Marilyn Chan, Ken Cruz, Catherine Parker, Jan Yunha Choi, Janet Lar Lewis, and support for programs, for the program areas in which they work. First, we try to support the missionaries, and because if they're not there doing their work, there's no program for them to help administer. And so, but following that, we here have supported community health and agricultural development in Cambodia and women's empowerment in Cambodia, supported Wadi Fakin, and supported the United Mission to Nepal Community Development Program that Catherine works with. It's a glorious history of service of this church, of which I am immensely proud to be connected. I'm Howard Parker, and we are United Methodists.